Hi everyone, Anthony Fantano here, internet's busiest music nerd. Hope you're doing well, and it's time for another edition of The Best Teeth in the Game. No, really, let's argue, where I go on social media, I accept your hot takes, your unpopular opinions, and your tough questions. I respond to the best ones, literally in this video. Let's go! Does anyone actually listen to the Red Hot Chili Peppers, or do we all just collectively say, wow, I like the Red Hot Chili Peppers? Honestly, I mean, I do look back on the band's music nostalgically, the stuff that, was most popular when I was younger and that I had tapes of. You know, I do love Sex Magic. I do think One Hot Minute is pretty good and maybe a tad bit underrated. Some of their stuff they dropped while I was more in my high school and college years, I don't care for as much. And while I do mostly have a positive perception of the band, it has been years since I think, for pleasure, I've listened to a Red Hot Chili Peppers album from front to back. Honestly, I think Red Hot Chili Peppers is just like this omnipresent band that is super popular, and of course they have hardcore fans out there that listen to their shit repetitively and religiously. I don't think their albums would do as well as they do numerically speaking if that wasn't the case. But also, I think the band is pretty versatile and has a little bit of something for everybody across their discography, and because of that, I think most people have like at least one or two Red Hot Chili Pepper songs that they really like or think are really cool and catchy or funky. So as a result, I think there are just a lot of people out there who will generally say they like the Red Hot Chili Peppers, just like I think there are a lot of people out there who will say they just generally like the Foo Fighters, because, you know, Dave Grohl and his boys, they at least have a few tracks that everybody thinks are fun or catchy too. Louis Armstrong is the origin of mumble rap. And if we're gonna get this loose with the origins of mumble rap, we could literally trace the origins of mumble rap back to the first time someone mumbled, which why don't we do that? That's probably really the origin of mumble rap. Modest Mouse is the first hick emo band. That kind of reminds me of Casey Musgraves. Didn't she refer to herself or her music as like emo yeehaw or something? Too many people ask, who's the best teeth in the game? Not enough asked, how is the best teeth in the game? I'm doing terrible. What kind of toothpaste do you use? You know, I'm not like stuck on any one brand right now. I don't have any kind of toothpaste brand loyalty going on at the moment, but right now I'm trying this Colgate Optic White toothpaste, and I guess it's okay. It's not blowing me away or anything. The ratings on Destiny Child's discography on Rate Your Music are a travesty, considering it's all some of the best contemporary R&B and pop music of the 2000s. Yeah, this is absolutely true. Survivor is a great album. Survivor and Independent Women are frickin' anthems. But here's the thing about Rate Your Music. I think it's a good platform, and I think it's a good tool, but if anything sort of holds the whole thing back, it's the user base, because for the most part, the tastes and the trends on there lean very raucous, they lean very male, and unfortunately because of that, a lot of pop music, a lot of music that is created by female musicians or appeals to more of a female audience doesn't get as much of a or doesn't seem to get as lavishly praised. I mean, even the new Ariana Grande record, for as good as it is, the success that it's seen and the dominance that it has had in the pop sphere is pretty mediocrely rated. And look, I get that not everybody is going to like everything, and I think guys who are fans of rock music and think Radiohead's OK Computer is the greatest album of all time, like, they certainly deserve a platform and they're entitled to their opinion and they are well within their right to, you know, crap on some pop album if they don't like it and jerk off to some Tom York solo project if they love it. Everybody has biases. Everybody's entitled to those biases. You guys know, after years of watching me, there are certain artists and tastes and trends and styles of music that just don't really appeal to me all that much. And I think the only solution for this situation truly is for more pop and R&B fans to get involved in platforms like Rate Your Music. Because Survivor and Writings on the Wall are actually really good albums that are pretty influential. Like, I think a lot of the contemporary alternative R&B that we currently all beat off to wouldn't be here if not for hitmakers like Destiny's Child. And you could even argue that they had direct influence on artists like Dirty Projectors. I think they very much pull a lot of their vocal harmony ideas from a lot of great Destiny's Child tracks. You won't review Doja Cat's music because her bars aren't vegan friendly. I mean, if you're referring to the Bitch I'm a Cow track, I do think that song is pretty funny, although I'm not too crazy about it. Honestly, I thought her last album was kind of underwhelming. It just didn't really do all that much for me. However, that new single that she has with Rico Nasty, the Tia and Tamara track, is amazing. That song is hilarious, a lot of personality. I mean, I've known her through sort of interacting with her online for her to be kind of a jokey person with a bit of a wild personality, and I'm looking forward to seeing that come out in her music more. I think through Bitch I'm a Cow, I think through this new track with Rico Nasty, we're starting to hear that more, and I'm looking forward to, you know, sort of seeing the next evolution of that. Eric Andre should make music. Eric Andre has made music. He made like a very weird, bad industrial rap mixtape that sounds like a comedic version of like a Death Grips record. It exists. I actually just learned about it not too long ago. Latin American music is getting worse because it's trying to be more like trap. And that's unfortunately kind of like most things at the moment. Just it's all trying to sound like trap music because that's the zeitgeist right now. And in Latin American music, I mean, a lot of it's very good, and I love a lot of original and traditional Latin American music, but the thing is, like, many international genres, for artists to really make a killing on sales and streams and on the charts, not only do you need to be appealing to Latin American audiences, but you also need like some crossover into North America too. And obviously there are Latin American listeners in North America, but you know what I'm saying. Like, they basically need to cross over into the US's mainstream by embracing more mainstream trends over here. And trap has sort of allowed them to do that. With album sales being what they are today, if Fugazi released a new album, it would go to #1 on the Billboard 200. What are the most album sales Fugazi's ever gotten? Looks like their debut record sold 300,000 copies right out of the gate. But look, here's the thing. In order for Fugazi to reform and come out with a new record and for that album to get #1 on the charts, it would have to be a perfect storm. It would have to be much more than just like the current state of physical album sales not really being that good. You have to account for a majority of the people buying their records back in the day were young music fans who are typically the most passionate about music and the most willing to shell out their money for music, at least historically speaking, before the age of streaming. If Fugazi were to put out a record today, their fan base would be significantly older than it was back in the day, and would those same numbers of people actually come out in droves to buy the new album to the point where it would become #1? Could we get 300,000 records sold right out of the gate of a new Fugazi album in 2019? Most likely no. There's so many factors at play that I don't think you're taking into account. The saturation of music on the internet right now. How would the band fare in the age of streaming? Would college radio support them like they did back in the day? And even if they do, is it as much of an influential factor in 2019 as it was back in the 90s? I can already tell you no, it's not. I'm sorry to pop your bubble, man, but I just think this is not real. You don't give enough non-human music a chance. Why don't I listen to these socks make music? Wow. Ref last episode's claim that rock will be the dominant music of the next decade. If there is one genre that has the necessary drive and underground drive to take over the next main pop sound, it's synthwave. This is the correct take, no need to argue it, just nod and agree. I do think synthwave and even vaporwave do have some very strong underground fan bases that are very passionate about that particular thing. Passion that could catapult those genres and the pioneering artists within them to higher levels of popularity. But I guess I'm skeptical here just because of potential commercial appeal, much like I am when it comes to underground forms of rock music such as emo and their potential popularity. I mean, one, emo has kind of already had its time in the sun as far as mainstream appeal. That already came and went. Meanwhile, synthwave, I mean, honestly, it wasn't really that long ago where there was a bit of a retro 80s synthwave revival in some pop songs that were actually charting and some artists that were doing really well. I feel like those waters were tested once again with the new Muse album, and that album didn't do all that well, despite some of the songs on that record being kind of decent. Despite the exposure that album provided, maybe not the best exposure, but still exposure, despite the exposure that album provided to some of those retro 80s and synthwave sounds, yeah, it's not like it created a synthwave explosion or anything like that. And I know that some people are going to say, well, Anthony, that's not a true synthwave. That's not what the hardcore fans are listening to. Yes, that's true. But in order to be like mainstream in music and topping the charts and being #1, you need normies listening to your music, people who are essentially casuals who are out of the loop. And despite how many attempts synthwave music has made at grabbing the brass ring, I really haven't seen it take the internet by storm in the way that it would need to in order to become mainstream. Now, I'm not saying that that would be impossible for synthwave to do, but I think we would need a bit of a musical landscape change in order to set the ground for that. Plus also a larger demand amongst music fans for the nostalgic, dancey, funky, cinematic sounds that synthwave offers. Filthy Frank put the snowball rolling for depression humor in popular culture and is somewhat responsible for emo rap, therefore also responsible for this generation widely struggling with emotional issues. Wow, this is wow, you've made so many presumptions here. Jesus. For as long as like there's been internet, there have been places on the internet that have been wildly popular, like 4chan, for example, where depression style humor reigned supreme. And even before the internet age, things such as dark humor did, like, you know, exist. But here's the thing, you can create art, whether it be movies or music or some style of humor, and if the audience isn't receptive to it because it doesn't speak to their experience, they're not going to take to it. People don't suddenly become depressed because they heard a depressive joke. They hear a depressive joke, and if they do suffer from things like depression, it resonates with them. And these days, people have a lot of stuff to be depressed about. Bad economic outlook for millennials and people younger. Most people are just stuffed into jobs that they hate. Most people are really lonely. But hey, let's keep the vibes high on this video, huh? Oatmeal cookies would be 100 times better if they didn't have raisins in them. Nobody in the right mind enjoys raisins that much to put them all over a delicious oatmeal cookie. Screw you. Screw you, asshole. All right, I'm gonna leave it at that, everybody. Thank you very much for watching. Hopefully you've gotten a lot of enjoyment out of this latest episode of Let's Argue. I'll see you guys in the next one. Over here next to my head is another Let's Argue that you can check out. Hit that up or the link to subscribe to the channel. Anthony Fantano, Let's Argue forever.